The morning of Friday dawned with a sense of tranquility, until my wife broke the silence by announcing her departure that evening, with the possibility of her return only the following day. Her tone conveyed a certain resoluteness, and her carefully crafted speech suggested that her decision was irreversible. She professed her continued love for me, but a hint of uncertainty lingered in her gaze, suggesting something deeper. This was the first encounter I had with infidelity, though similar scenarios were frequently depicted in literature and film. She eloquently spoke of the brevity of life, the impermanence of monogamy, and her desire for freedom to explore the full extent of what the world had to offer. Her discourse centered around love, liberty, and individual autonomy. She persuaded me that if I embraced her new way of living, she would be even more attentive to my needs. I listened to her, and as I heard her words, I felt a surge of anger rising within me, drawing me closer to the role of Ahab in pursuit of vengeance. However, instead of allowing myself to be consumed by this anger, I turned my mind to the teachings of Melville's Bartleby. At the moment when she requested that I kiss her goodbye, I simply responded, "I would rather not." She was taken aback, not expecting such a response. Rather than succumbing to anger or threats, I had chosen the path of self-restraint. This unexpected response caused a fissure in her confidence, and she began to plead, promising that she would not spend the entire night with her new companion, that she would return home and assure me of her affection. But once again, I repeated, "I would rather not." Several days passed, and on Sunday evening, she returned home looking exhausted, like a cornered animal. She dropped her bag onto the patio as I was grilling, but I continued my task without acknowledging her presence. Her attempts at conversation were met with my unwavering response, "I would rather not." I turned to her, intent on saying something, but she forestalled me, abruptly interrupting me. "Do not presume to utter such words. I am weary. It is better that you say nothing. But be aware, this is going to be a protracted evening, and we must speak." She was implacable. "You cannot simply withdraw as you have. Are you truly prepared to abandon everything? 7 years spent together, 5 years in matrimony, all for 2 brief moments when I sought something else." She fell silent, and I merely listened in silence. "I needed this," she said. "The years have been gnawing at me from within. I have always loved you, but I could not cope with the idea of there being other men, other realms that I did not know. I had to try to understand who I am, not just as a wife, but as a woman with my own desires and ambitions. I'm sorry, but it was beyond my control." She paused, searching my eyes for a response. I remained silent, like a mute stone, turning back to the grill and continuing to cook the steak. She was desperate to reach me, pleading with me, begging for forgiveness. "Say something. Do not be silent." But my reply was simple, "I prefer not to." Her face twisted in a grimace of despair and fury. "Do not be so cold towards me. Hit me, shout at me, but do not ignore me." The days passed, and her every inquiry was met with a chilly and polite response. "I'd rather not." She attempted to converse, to elucidate, but I merely shrugged. Her unease grew, unrelieved by my tranquility. One evening, she returned from a merry social gathering with colleagues, only to find an empty home and my absence. As I prepared to depart, she sought to detain me. "Are you punishing me in this manner? Is this your form of forgiveness?" I calmly replied, "I'd rather not," and left her standing in the solitude of the empty house. I spent the evening with my parents, enjoying peace and tranquility, before returning home late at night to find her weeping. Even then, I remained silent. The following morning, she prepared breakfast, attempting to resume the conversation. "Yesterday was dreadful. You departed without me, leaving me alone. I have been contemplating what it must have been like for you during those weekends when I was absent. If I were to ask you a question, would you respond honestly?" "Yes," I responded without turning around. "Have you spent time with another woman?" Her voice trembled. I did not deceive her. Yes, I said. Her expression revealed a mixture of anguish and relief. She now knew the truth. She knew that I too had ventured into another realm, as she herself had once done. As I continued with my daily routine, I played golf with my father without mentioning this topic. In the evening, when I donned my tuxedo and prepared to leave the house, she stood on the staircase, gazing at me in astonishment. Her eyes conveyed a multitude of emotions: pain, pride, fear, and the desire to cling to what was slipping through her fingers. She stood before me, her countenance a study in hope, her voice breaking as she spoke. I understand. You are going out for a special occasion. A tuxedo? Who is the lucky lady? I nodded, attempting to maintain my composure. My dear, there is no one like you, but I prefer not to discuss it. She raised an inquisitive eyebrow, seemingly expecting further elaboration, but I merely responded softly. I realize that I have made a mistake. I acknowledge that. However, I am unable to share the details with you. Her eyes closed, as if to suppress the tears that threatened to fall. She continued in a nearly inaudible whisper. I know how angry you must be. I humiliated you. I rejected you, spending weekends away as though I did not care. I will regret it forever. Her voice quivered as she relived the events of the past few days. On Friday, I ventured to Wendy's for a burger en route to the concert, having been assured of excellent seating. I dressed appropriately, anticipating an exceptional experience. However, upon arrival, I discovered that our seats were situated so far from the stage that even with binoculars, I could barely discern the performers. Moreover, I had paid for both the beer and the meal. Throughout this ordeal, I felt a profound sense of humiliation, contemplating the idea of exiting the venue and vanishing into obscurity. She emitted a heavy sigh, lost in the reverie of her recollections. I sought solace at a bar, encountering old acquaintances, but by dawn, I awoke with a gnawing sense of guilt for attempting to escape reality. I imbibed wine on the balcony of a seedy motel, realizing that my pursuit was not love but escape. Her gaze met mine, her eyes brimming with tears. Perhaps the universe sought to deter me. I sought solace in others, only to discover it was a deception. Now, I realize my sole desire is for you. Forgive me, please. Return to me. I shall not repeat this error. I gazed into her eyes, brimming with sorrow and contrition. My heart gave a brief pause before I uttered, with a quiet but resolute voice, I would rather not pursue this course. In the aftermath, I refrained from revealing to her that the woman I had been seen with was my mother. Nor did I share with her the fact that despite her remorse, my heart had lost its capacity for love. We did not formally divorce, yet she departed shortly thereafter. Yet, I remained uncertain as to whether this marked the finality of our relationship.